St Paul Audiovisuals present Seasons of Your Life by Fr Gerard Dowling. Fr Dowling is a social worker with Melbourne's Catholic Family Welfare Bureau. He's well known in Victoria for his Sunday night talkback program on 3DB and 3HA, and throughout Australia for his many books and cassettes. He's recently been honoured with the Medal of the Order of Australia for his service to the community, particularly in the field of family welfare. Fr Gerard Dowling.
I'm offering you this cassette, Seasons of Your Life, for 3 reasons. The first is to encourage you to look about you and elicit the maximum impact possible from each successive season of the year as it dawns for you, particularly if you live a busy life and if you are limited in the main to the asphalt and concrete jungle of city and suburbs. My second is that this cassette will enable you to appreciate each phase of your own life journey as you mature through its varying seasons of personal growth. My final aim is that the message that is about to unfold for you will foster in you a prayerful reflection on the ever-changing creativeness of God's natural world, as well as on the people and events that He allows to colour your life, until you come to bloom forever in the garden of our Father. To facilitate this prayerfulness and to round off my presentation of each season, I've decided to add a seasonal prayer. The words will be mine, but I trust that you will be able to adapt them to your own use, or, better still, to compose your own as the Spirit moves you. The season of spring. Spring is where it all begins, that endless cycle of the seasons. While we mark it as officially beginning on the first day of September each year, it doesn't really happen quite like that. Its true beginning is out of sight, and for most of us, out of mind, save for those who are close to the earth. Farmers and gardeners are aware of it. They plan for it even while the rest of us are gripped in the chill of winter. They are the people who can grasp the significance of that superb summation of it all by the son of the heavenly gardener. This is how he summed it up. Unless the grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. Recently, I saw a beautiful wall poster that conveyed a parallel idea. It went this way: He who wants to enjoy the glory of the sunrise must live through the night. In the stillness and in the darkness, while most of us are keeping warm or resting, the world is revolving towards another dawn. But the dawning is a subtle thing. It doesn't burst upon us. If we are awake, if we are attuned to it, then we will perceive the first breaking, slight as it is, with the first glimmer of light or the first stirring of the birds and the animals. When spring eventually arrives, I suggest that you do something, especially if you have not really done so before. Take a stroll in a garden and allow yourself to be really touched by all that is going on around you, as the flora and the fauna respond to the recreating hand of God. Sit on the grass. Breathe in the freshness. Don't let any of it escape you. While you're there, I encourage you to raise your mind and your heart to God, who is making it all happen. I urge you to ask him to enable you to savour this new beginning so that you can take it back to the hectic business of your everyday situations. You might like, too, to take your Bible along with you and to read some appropriate passage, like Jesus' great Sermon on the Mount in chapters 5 to 7 of Matthew's Gospel, where the Son of the Heavenly Gardener talks about the lilies of the field and the birds of the air. Having pointed out how precious these are to our loving Heavenly Gardener, his Father, he poses the telling question, are you not of more value than they? The emergence of spring is similar to our own beginning within our mother. There, in her inner depths, the ovum from her and the seed from our Father, planted in love, die to themselves so that together they might give rise, under the creative power of God, to our new life. Each of us celebrates our birthday as our beginning, but, as we all know, our true beginning was so much earlier, as I've just described, in the sacred secrecy of our mother's womb. But our birth, when it finally happened, was only the first of many springs for us. There was our first spoken word, unremembered by us, but treasured long afterwards by our parents. There was our first step, our first day at school, and the long succession of firsts that has reinvigorated our lives as each one has dawned for us. You yourself might be having yet another spring at this very time. It might be your first date, your first driving lesson, your first day at work. Whatever it is, please prize it as precious. You might have noticed the recurrence of that word first. It is important because it will never happen again. The newness and the freshness of each occasion will never be repeated. So do try to savour its specialness, its sweetness, as it unfolds for you. If you do this, then the springtime of each experience won't simply be something that happens, but will be lived through in all its beauty and richness. It is the springs of our life that give point and purpose to its winters, because each spring breathes expectancy, spells hope. Interestingly enough, green is the colour most often associated with hope, and green must surely be the colour of spring as well. Therefore, above all else, spring should be for you a time of hope. You might have sinned, and if so, reconciliation with God can usher in for you yet another spiritual spring. In a similar way, you might have quarrelled with another, in which case spring can refresh your relationship once those beautiful words, "I'm sorry" and "I forgive" have been uttered by both of you. So, if you are truly open to the successive springs of your life, both those of nature and those of a more personal type, then you will never really grow old. You will remain forever young, since youth is a state of mind rather than an age of life. In addition, if you bring to each of these springtime experiences a prayerful response to the cultivating hand of our Heavenly Gardener, then the tender shoots of your springtimes can mature through the ripening summers, the ageing autumns, and the pruning winters of your life into the affirming strength and fulfillment of an eternal summer. Now I'd like to share a prayer for the spring times of your life. Lord, may I bring to each new beginning in my life the spirit of spring. May every phase of my pilgrim path, be it major or minor, have about it a freshness and a hope as I journey in your company. Slow me down, Lord, so that I can take in the tiniest new bud or the smallest activity of the bird as it goes about constructing its new nest. May I detect in all these reawakenings the creative hand of our Heavenly Father as He carefully tends His garden of nature. In all the challenges that life confronts me with, Lord, may I be invigorated with refreshing faith rather than wearied by doubt, vibrant with confidence rather than wrapped by fear, rejuvenated by hope rather than weighed down by despair. In other words, Jesus, I ask you to plant in my heart the seeds of a spiritual springtime, so that I will be brimful of hope, the hope of Easter and of the resurrection that it celebrates. As a result, when the lines of communication are down and the lives of others are iced up with pessimism and frozen solid with cynicism, may I uplift the pessimistic and warm the cynical by shining on them the glow from your risen life, a springtime pledge of an endless summer of happiness in paradise with you. The season of summer. Summer is the summit of the seasons. Spring is its prelude, and autumn and winter are its aftermath. It is that time of year we look forward to and plan for. That time of year we reminisce about until the next one comes our way. We in Australia, more often than not, have a delightful summer, with the sun the pivot around which everything else takes its bearings. Sun tanning, swimming, surfing, camping out by the sea or in the hills are all enterprises that revel in the glow and the warmth of this phase of the calendar. Invariably, there is associated with all these activities a general sense of letting go, letting off steam, or, in current parlance, letting it all hang out. Many people take their annual vacation at this time, but among those who do not, countless others manage to sneak away for weekends, especially the long ones that strategically pepper these sunnier weeks of the year. The weather doesn't change people intrinsically, but it can help to brighten their approaches to life, to lighten their burdens, and to encourage them to lift their spirits, even if only just a little. Reflecting on any season inevitably turns our thoughts to nature and to its impact on our flora and fauna. With the coming of summer, life in these areas reaches its crowning glory. The budding of springtime gives way to the full bloom of summertime. Expectation attains its promise. Winter had its starkness, spring its freshness, and autumn will have its goldness. But summer enjoys a warmth all of its own. At its zenith, this warmth is all-enveloping, surrounding us like a loving embrace that can touch us to our innermost selves, if we open ourselves to it. That thought brings us quite logically to the hand of God that can be so widely detected in the richness and the glow of the summer season. Those who have the faith and the vision to do so can, of course, perceive God in all the successive changes in nature. But for me, somehow, the love and the warmth of our Heavenly Father shines through in a clearer and more unmistakable way from December to February. If we relate all this to the seasons of our life, to the journey that we seek to make from infancy to old age, then summer broadly represents the phase from adulthood to the middle years. This is meant to be the time of physical and intellectual maturity, when most of our human capabilities usually reach fruition. Productivity and output are keynotes to this season of our life, which challenges each of us as we pass through it to give of our very best and to develop to their full our God-given talents, be they 5, 3, or 1, to borrow from the language of Jesus in his famous parable. As was the case in that parable, the use of our talents is ultimately up to us. God will grant the increase, but we have to do the planting and watering first. In one of my books, When You're Feeling That Way, I coined the phrase, prayer is basking in the Son of God. And I believe that it's as good a description of prayer as you can get. Just as the degree of suntan, partial or all over, depends upon the extent to which we expose ourselves to the radiating rays of the sun, so the degree to which we become fully alive in the spiritual sense will be determined by the openness we make to the total impact of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection in our living circumstances. Quite obviously, prayer pertains to all seasons, but, as I've said already, Jesus can seem more tangible and all-pervading in the warmth and the richness that abounds in nature under the summer sun, and we ought utilize this to the full. So, as you begin each new summer of your life, with the particular harvest that it has to offer you, may you be as open as possible to all that the Son of God can do for you. Never forget in this regard that he died for you in the winter of Calvary, rose for you in the springtime of the Easter morn, and beamed down to you the redeeming abundance radiated in the burnishing summer of Pentecost. Having responded to all these seasonal contributions, may your life be a warm and loving experience that is never kept to yourself, but radiated to your fellow pilgrims when summer seems so far away, especially the glorious summer of heaven. Now I'd like to share with you a prayer for the summer times of your life. Jesus, you are the Son whom our Father, the Heavenly Gardener, has sent to warm and tan us with the radiance of the divine love. So, I want to bask completely in your sunshine, today and every day of my life. Each summer, nature seems to reach its height, its crowning glory, as the starkness of winter and the promise of spring give way to the fullness of all that these seasons have been preparing for us. It is the goal towards which everything in nature is directed, like the culmination of an orchestral crescendo, and I want to enjoy it fully. While the process of nature and its constant cycle of the seasons can survive the destruction of bushfires and the onslaught of floods, the seasons of our lives are not always that sturdy. The spring of our emotional life does not always reach its intended summer of maturity. Hurt and rejection, real or perceived, so often retards or stunts our growth. This is a tragic plight, and I pray that no matter what happens to me, I will never lose sight of my preciousness, never close myself to receiving genuine love from others, nor from showing it to those who need mine. In my personal relationship that I have with you, Jesus, may the promise and the potential of my baptismal commitment go on maturing through the phases of my life. May that special bond of prayer, which opens me to your warming friendship, foster the trust and the love of that relationship as I push on with life's journey. May the Eucharistic meal be my constant nourishment as it sustains me on my pilgrim path, a path that I tread not in isolation, but in the company of those who share it and those who have yet to taste it. As I strive to become fully alive as a Christian, may the summer of my maturing years open me to the needs of others. May I never be content with complacency of knowing that I have you for my friend. Avoiding such self-satisfaction, may I be constantly open to reflecting your light to those who stumble over life's problems, and your warmth to those who are lonely. The season of autumn. Autumn is what we call it. To the Americans, it's the fall. But no matter how we label it, it is still a golden time of the year. As leaves turn from the greens to the browns, reds and golds, the lushness of summer gives way to the richness of autumn. Everywhere we move, there is a warmth and a glow around us. Photographers, especially now that they have such superb colour film at their disposal, really have a field day as this season unfolds. Almost every day brings with it some new delight to quicken their cameras into life. Some countries seem to wear autumn better than others. The New England parts of the United States and the southern sections of Canada are customarily depicted during this season. In fact, the Canadian national emblem is the maple leaf, and to visit that land during the fall, as I have had the privilege of doing, is to enjoy a spectacle that one can never forget, as tree after tree undergoes its autumn tonings. Even though it is now 5 years since I visited that fascinating country, the beauty of its flora at this time of year is still indelibly imprinted in my memory. This was particularly so in the vicinity of the magnificent Niagara Falls, where the entire area was afire with a reddishness and a goldness so characteristic of this part of the earth. Thankfully, the wonder of this season is not restricted to any one country, but touches each land in its own special way. Australia, therefore, is no exception, as summer gives way to autumn in these southern climes. The foliage that is native to our soil integrates with that brought here from overseas to make the blend that is familiar to us as we stroll through our private and public gardens. As the weeks take us from early to late autumn, our gaze is invariably lowered from the loftiness of the branches to the earth beneath. On the ground, as autumn draws to its close, nature spreads its gigantic golden carpet of fallen leaves. It is a scene worth beholding, this autumnal splendour, as it touches the passer-by with the glow of God. These physical characteristics and changes, besides colouring and enriching our lives with their special contribution, can lead us to reflect on the autumn of our lives. There was a time when great numbers of our human family did not reach their autumn. Disease and death prevented that. Today, however, with our ever-increasing life expectancy, the experience of this phase of nature is happening to more people with a consequent awareness of its importance and the contribution that it can make to their lives. Retirement, for instance, is less looked upon these days as the end of the road and is viewed rather as a valuable and often lengthy phase of one's lifespan, providing well-earned time for further enrichment and relaxation. Those of us who are in a position to do so could well grasp the opportunity for extended travel, especially overseas, that these years can offer. But the autumn of a person's life doesn't have to be thought of merely in terms of personal ease and gratification. It is to be hoped that more and more people in these golden years will realise the opportunity that they provide for giving themselves to others. While industry, the business world, and the public service view older individuals as beyond their years of productivity, public life and community projects are constantly benefiting from men and women in their 70s and even in their 80s, who have so much to contribute from the wealth of experience they have acquired in the spring and summer of their lives. The Chancellor who led West Germany's post-war recovery was the ageing Konrad Adenauer, and the Pope who inspired and launched the renewal of the Catholic Church in the 60s was the elderly John the 23rd. It will also be recorded by future historians that the men who led the two superpowers in our time, Ronald Reagan and Konstantin Chernenko, were both in the 8th decade of their life. The so-called elderly should not be viewed nor view themselves as has-beens, but as people with an ongoing mission. But it is not only those who hold the centre of the world's stage who are building on what they have derived from human society, and who are putting back their dividend for those who are still in the more youthful section of their journey through life. No, numerous community projects too are utilising older people's more mature knowledge and skills so that the younger fry, who have so much to learn from them and who have come to respect them, can be the beneficiaries. Wisdom is a quality of which we stand in great need today. It cannot be derived just from books nor from mere academic courses. It is the fruit of steady growth and maturity, and it is the special legacy of those whose lives have turned or are turning from green to gold. On the other hand, those of us who have still to attain the autumn of our lives require an openness to this wisdom of the older gentry. We need to listen to what these people have to share with us, to give it serious consideration, and to accord it appropriate application in our present lives. Therefore, when this season of autumn dawns for you, may you derive as much as you can from the potential that it has to offer you. May you saturate your senses too with the beauty that the world wears at this time of year. If you have already reached the twilight of your years, may you shed, for those who follow you, the golden leaves of all that you have gleaned along the road of life. If, on the other hand, you are still in the spring or summer of your years, may you be open to the harvest of wisdom that can be derived from those who have already borne the heat of the day and who are now in the final phase of their lifelong pilgrimage. Now a prayer for the autumns of your life. To me, Lord, autumn has about it a mellowness that is reflected by the leaves as they change from green into reds and golds. As I walk in this afterglow of summer, and as I treasure the memories of the past and ready myself to face up to the challenges that will confront me in the near future. I really hope, too, that my autumn will be a time of wisdom in which I can learn from the past, even from its mistakes made by myself as well as by others. As a result, may I display a readiness to share the knowledge and the skills that I have acquired throughout my journey with those who are prepared to listen to me. With the passing of the years, Lord, may I grow in wisdom. What I ask for is not just the shrewdness of the worldly wise, but the wisdom that was Solomon's, the wisdom that is the gift of the Spirit. As the leaves of my life detach themselves and fall, let me remember that I haven't here a lasting city. While I savour all that nature has to offer, and while I strive to live my life to the full, may I always remember that the manner in which I live this life will determine the manner in which I will live the one that will begin when my very last leaf falls to the ground. The season of winter. Winter. What does that word hold for you? Does it fill you with a cold shiver and a bleakness of spirit? Or does it evoke thoughts of a bracing wind and an invigorating walk in the rain? Your response will be quite subjective, coloured by your own personal perspective, and crowded with the memories of the winters of your life. On the one hand, it could be a painful plodding through the months of your discontent. On the other, it could be a time of challenge and expectation, geared to growth and fulfilment. Most of us cannot escape the 3 months of winter each year. Consequently, what approach you yourself bring to this annual season is considerably important. You could bring a negative, pessimistic attitude, merely enduring the short days and the long nights until the improvement of spring breaks through. Alternatively, you could actually come to enjoy winter with its cold and its rain, its fog and its mud, and turn them all to good purpose. What might so well be geared towards a gathering gloom might be harnessed instead on inner peace and happiness. Quite obviously, you need to guard against the flu or a cold. That's only common sense. But you don't have to spend your leisure hours tucked inside, hovering over a heater. No, you could decide instead to rug yourself up and go for an invigorating walk in the bracing breeze. And with a brolly at the ready, you could still stretch your legs and fill your lungs with the clean, fresh air that abounds this time of the year. Even the open hearth has much to offer. With the spiralling bills for oil and electricity, the open fire is steadily making its comeback, and its warming circle of family and friends could provide the setting for real relaxation and friendly fun. The would-be woes of winter could, with purposeful forethought, be turned into times of tenderness and togetherness. All this might sound somewhat unreal and idealistic, a fantasy to dodge the unattractiveness of a season that apparently has so little to commend it. Quite the contrary. I believe that, as with the other seasons, winter is ultimately what each of us makes it. From sport to cooking, from holidaying to just being at home, the days of winter have so much to offer. An afternoon at the footy, a warm bowl of soup, a picnic in the snow, an extra hour snuggled up in bed. These and a host of other attractions are among the special delights of June, July and August in our beloved Australia. But what I've said about our physical winter applies just as well to our emotional one too. We can be dampened and saddened by depression and grief, or we can allow our feelings and experiences to be the stepping stones to a new spring. Depression can deteriorate into despair. Grief can grow into aggression and bitterness. Or these bleak experiences in the wintertide of our days can mature us to a new wholeness. The outcome is largely determined by the perspective that each of us brings to these sad and sorry situations of our lives. The decision is up to you and it's up to me. All these experiences can be brutal. They can bruise us or break us, or we can emerge from them renewed, regenerated. Take the rose bush, for example. In winter, as it stands naked, bereft of its blooms and leaves, it is a barren sight indeed. Once it has been pruned, however, the dead wood cut away, its new growth can break through once again. The supple green shoots can burst forth, and the tiny roses can begin to bud once more. Winter can be tough, it can be challenging, but it holds too the potential of new life, as does our spiritual winter. We can falter, we can stumble, our sins like sleet can stifle our sight of God. Our faith might appear frozen, and our hope reduced to helplessness. Like the master before us, we apprentices might even be called upon to endure the chill and the rejection of our own Gethsemane and Calvary. But we don't have to stop there. We, like our risen Lord, can break through to our own brilliant burst of sun with its foretaste of the eternal summer with God. Reconciliation can heal our sins. Peace can assuage our grief. The degradation of our Good Friday can give way to the triumph of our Easter morn. But none of these can happen without Jesus. We cannot come through them all without following his example, without opening ourselves to the will of our Father by the power of his Spirit. May you succeed in grasping the challenges that winter brings in its wake. May they open you to the more important lessons that spiritual pruning can provide, so that this year's winter won't only give way to the spring that follows it, but open your mind and your heart to the spiritual springs that can refresh your pilgrimage to the home of our Father. Even more than that, may you journey purposefully through every winter wilderness that life has for you, and may you emerge from them all chastened and readied for the ultimate goal, an eternal summer with the Father of all seasons. A final prayer, this time for the winters of your life. Lord, as winter has its necessary place in the endless cycle of the seasons, so do the winters of my life. I'm sure that if I am honest with you and with myself, I'd probably dodge the winters like the birds who migrate to warmer climes. But that wouldn't be very adult, would it? The winters will inevitably come, some mild, some severe, and I pray that when they do, I will respond to them positively and constructively with all the help and encouragement that you have to offer me. Given the imperfect, tarnished world of which I am part, sickness and suffering will inevitably come my way. As they occur, may they not harden me nor crush me, but may I grow through them to a new healthiness. Beyond that, if ever the iciness of death severs the bonds with someone I love, may I grow through the winter of my grief to a new wholeness, rather than languish in bitterness. Sin is another winter experience that is an inevitable part of our weakened human state too. Despite that, may I do all in my power, with your assistance, to avoid it. However, if I do fail, may I be wise and prompt enough to express my sincere sorrow, to seek your forgiveness, and to renew our friendship once again, a friendship that will eventually see me into an eternity of happiness in the home of our Father. If this cassette were a gourmet's guide, it would probably be described as a souffle. It is certainly no heavy meat that needs to be dissected, chewed over, and then digested. No, Seasons of Your Life is meant rather to be savoured and enjoyed, to add colour and richness to your life, which hopefully is already basically a purposeful and fulfilling one. I certainly did not intend it to plumb the depths of your personality in a probing sort of way. There are plenty of other cassettes amply attuned to that purpose for those who experience a need for such at some stage of their lives. This is certainly not one of them. My ultimate hope is that this present cassette will come across to you in a positive and happy fashion, and succeed in giving you a new sensitivity to the world around you. As a result, may your observance of nature from now on afford you a greater perception of our flora and fauna as they undergo their various seasonal transitions. May the net result be, therefore, that you will miss as little as possible of nature's splendour and beauty as it unfolds around you. Even more than that, I cherish the hope that the thoughts that I have shared here may broaden and deepen your vision of the phases of your own life and help you develop the potential that each has to offer you as you progress through adolescence, adulthood, the middle and maturer years of your life. Wherever you are at any given time, may you grow as a person and as a Christian. If your life is moving forward at a frantic pace these days, with an increasing number of social, financial and other pressures being brought to bear on your life, may this cassette serve to slow you down, help you take stock, and prevent you from being totally overwhelmed by all that is happening to you. So, may the thoughts that I have shared with you about the seasons give you a new zest for living as you allow yourself enough opportunity to breathe in as much as you can of the richness that the world around you has to offer, with an openness to the special gifts that are proffered by each succeeding season. In turn, may you reflect prayerfully upon each present season of your human journey, coloured as it is by the tragedies and triumphs that you encounter along the way. In the end, may you be able to understand and to implement the main messages of this cassette so that, as Jesus said, you will not only have life, but have it more abundantly, and you will be gearing yourself to bloom forever in all your completeness in the garden of our Father.